Many months later.
Lessons learned can be a pain, especially when it's already written down in a Teams message, but just not anywhere useful for later. G'day, I'm Connor. Today we are going to learn how to use the Teams for a selected message trigger and do some basic adaptive cards. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do is to store our lessons learned. Create a new list by selecting New, then List. We will create a blank list and add in our own custom columns. We'll give the list a name, such as Lessons Learned Register. Let's add our first column. We'll add a column of type person with the name Originator, and this will be the name of the person who wrote the chat. Next, we will add another person type column with the name Sender. This will be the name of the person who submitted the lesson learned. We will next need to add two multi-line columns with similar data. The first one will be lessons formatted, and we'll scroll down and toggle on the used enhanced rich text, and this will enable us to keep any formatting or images in the message. The next column type will be lessons plain. This one will leave default and will enable us just to extract the plain text from the message. Then we will add a single line text titled message subject. Now we want to add a column to store the link of the message, and we'll change this type to hyperlink. Add a new choice column named category, and we will add three categories: critical, nice to have, and general improvement. Finally, we'll add a notes column. Now that our data source is ready, we will create an instant Cloudflow with the for a selected message trigger. This trigger comes with a handy inbuilt adaptive card editor. Adaptive cards are very flexible and can be constructed using JSON. This designer will help us build the card using UI element and generate the JSON for us. Let's explore the designer. On the left are the elements that we can use. On the right are the properties for the selected element. And then down the bottom, we can inspect and edit the JSON if we so choose. We want to build a simple three-component form with two of those fields being text inputs and one being choice. However, if we so choose, we could also use date, time, numbers, and toggles as inputs on our card. Let's get started by changing some of the text values. Select the text block and then update the text field in the element properties to raise a lesson learned. Then scroll down and apply some styling. Set the text to larger and the color to accent. Note, in the current version of the inbuilt designer, the text formatting previews are not working correctly. We'll just have to assume it's going to work, and we'll find out later. Similarly, with the next text field, we will select it on the card and then update the text field properties to additional information required. Then set the spacing to small and set the text weight to lighter. We will change the Your Name label to Title. Move on to the next text input that exists in this template. Replace the placeholder text with Enter Text here. The ID field is the name we'll use in SharePoint and reference in Power Automate. We'll change this to AC Title, where AC is for adaptive card. Finally, we'll set the maximum length to 100 characters to match the SharePoint list title column default. Next, the email label. We will replace the current text with comments and update the spacing to small. For the email text input, we will update the ID property to AC comments and the placeholder to enter text here as before. Furthermore, we will change the style from email to text. Let's reorganize the layout by removing the final text input, then clicking and dragging the phone number label to between the text title input and the comments label. Update the label to category and set the spacing to small while we are here. Click and drag an input choice set field from the left to under the category label. Give it an ID value of AC category. At the bottom, we will update the choices to be the exact matches of our choice column from SharePoint list. I'm going to copy and paste them in. Clear the placeholder text and set the default value to be one of the choices. Finally, set the spacing to none. Select Save Card up the top. Great, now we've built our capture form. This is the hard bit done. The next stage is to build the flow. Our workflow needs to be able to create a record in the list with our data, then notify the user that the item was captured. We can start by first using the Create Item SharePoint action. then selecting our site and list. We'll use the AC title for the title field. For the category value, select and use dynamic content, and then use the AC category value. Use AC comments for the note field, link to message for link, message subject for message subject, plain text message content for lesson plain, and message content for lesson formatted. The originator claims and sender claims require a bit of extra effort. For this, we need the user's email address from the ID value supplied in the trigger. Add a new action above this one for get user profile, and then another for get my profile. Supply the get user profile action with the originator user display name from the trigger. Now we have the email address of the originator from the get user profile and our own email as the sender from the get user profile action. We can create our claim value by entering a custom value, pasting in this string here, then adding the user mail field for the originator and our own mail field for the sender. Now that the data has been written, we want to send feedback to the users that it was a success. We need to handle two different cases, one for channels and another for chats. In our channel case, the flow will reply to the post, making it visible to all. For personal or group chats, we will have the flow message both the originator and the sender individually to notify and confirm the addition. We have to do this as the Flowbot cannot join personal conversations. For this, we'll create a condition. This condition will check to see if the ID field is empty or not. Due to some characteristics of Power Automate, we will need to use a temporary workaround to create this condition. First, let's create a compose action. We'll add in the channel ID property, we'll select the ellipses, and then we'll peek the code. We need to copy all the text between the quote marks with the exception of the @ symbol. Now that we have this code, we can delete the compose action. In our condition action, we'll go to expression and then we'll type in empty followed by brackets, and then we'll paste in the code we just copied. We want to then check if this is equal to false. Now, if a channel ID is present, then the overall condition will resolve to yes, and if channel ID is blank, this will resolve to no. In the yes portion, add a reply with a message in a channel action from Teams. This will reply to a message as Flowbot and post in the channel. Set the message ID, and then set custom values for team and channel IDs. We'll add a simple message with the flow runner's name and then some details about the form. Great, now onto the no condition. Using the post a message in a channel or chat action, we want to post a message using the Flowbot in a chat with the Flowbot. We will then update the name of this action to better help us remember who this is going to. We're going to send this first message to the originator, so the recipient is going to be the mail of the user. We'll copy the same message as before and reapply some styling. As this won't be replying to a specific message, we need to link the message so the user knows which message was raised. We can do this by highlighting this, then selecting the hyperlink icon. As we cannot put in a dynamic value, let's put in a temporary website URL, such as Google. Next, we'll select the code button to inspect the message HTML. We can see the link we added before. Let's replace the Google site with the link to our message. Let's add another message to send to the sender. In this case, it'll be ourselves. This is a similar message, but let's reword it to make it a little bit more appropriate. Great work! We've built the flow. Let's test it to make sure it works. On a Teams channel, let's find a message. We'll select the ellipses, more actions, then select our flow. Great, the form appears. Let's fill in some details, then select submit. We'll wait a moment, and then we see the Flowbot has responded. We can also check out our list to see everything has been added correctly too. Just to be sure, we'll run the flow again and check what it does to a GIF. As we can see in the list, it's in the formatted text, but not in the plain text as we expected. Now we know that this works, let's see how it performs for chats. I'm going to send Alex a message, but this works if he sends me a message too. Let's run the flow like before and fill in the form. The Flowbot will send me 2 messages, as I am both the originator and the sender of the message. And we can see it works well. I just need to tidy up a bit of the formatting, and it also appears one of the links doesn't work and the other one links me to the wrong message. Right, to fix these problems, let's head back to the flow and have a look at what I've done. In the first card, look at the HTML view, and we'll clean this up by removing the values between the quotes and putting the link to message from our teams. We will tidy up the next action and make it look the same. This time, it's important we get the correct link to message from teams. We will then use an automatic trigger to retest the last message to see if this has fixed our problems. Great, now everything works and both messages link to the correct message. Finally, the last step is to share this flow with others so that this button appears for them. Return to the flow details page and add users to the Run Only Users area. We can share it with a whole SharePoint site, groups, or individual users. There we have it, a quick and easy way to capture lessons learned or important messages in Teams. However, this trigger can be used for so much more. A couple of common examples are work, issue, or priority list, or as a part of an approval workflow. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.